This is the latest shameless adventure. I've started this 1,000 times because I just don't know where to start with the story, but I will start with the energy and what's inside me right now. It's been about 1 week since the workshop and I still feel magnetic, connected, so in love with myself in a way that I haven't felt before. I feel like I'm a completely different person. I'm walking down the street, making eye contact with all these people. I am so curious about the depths of pleasure that, I thought I knew a lot about pleasure before going into this. Well, let me tell you, I know nothing. And the universe has so much out there that is still such a curiosity. I was really afraid of entering this world of Tantra. I remember in Guatemala there being an ecstatic dance and contact dance and thinking, oh my God, this is not for me. And there's so much eye contact with strangers and so much intense intimacy, and that is not something I want. But at the same time, really recognizing that that's a mirror and that that's shining on a light on something that I have walls up. So it was I didn't want to do it because I was afraid and quite intimidated by that, but also know that deep down that was probably something holding me back that would be opened when I went into this experience. One of the things that I think is really important to communicate, because I got so many questions about this, was attending it solo versus with a partner. For me, attending solo, I really liked it because I could really focus 100% on me. I wasn't where's my partner, or thinking about that. It was really on me. And they pair you with different people. So I was paired with men, I was paired with women, and all these different energies were so interesting. And I deeply, deeply connected with other women as well. And that's amazing. So I left with so many beautiful, beautiful friendship connections with both women and men. But that was really, really special. And then of course, I think it would be incredible to attend with a partner too. I definitely think so, because then you're able to also talk in the same language, and to kind of see where you can take your intimacy further with a partner. So I would say do it both ways, with a partner, without a partner, maybe you meet a partner there. I can recommend to anyone who has sort of this curiosity but resistance. What I intentionally did is I really wanted to give it its best shot. So a 3-day workshop, was the best way to do that, so that I didn't just go one night and think, oh my God, this is absolutely not for me. No, I had to go through the full experience and really go through it and then see. And I'm so happy I did. When certain people think of Tantra, they think of tantric sex and they think of pleasure and it all being very sexual. And there was that component, definitely, especially as we got to the middle and end of the weekend. But in the beginning, it's really a lot about connection to yourself and your ability to access deep emotions within yourself, to be able to go deep within yourself by being extremely present. Somebody said, and I really liked it, there is no Tantra without being present. And it made me think of all the times when I'm not even sexually, just with friends, with my family, with a partner, where I'm not fully there. Even during intimacy, where I'm not 100% present. Well, let me tell you, there's no Tantra without being deeply connected and deeply present. And so that was one of the really grounding and interesting things that I took away from that, is how can I be more present in my day-to-day? And they taught us some really great exercises with that. So the first thing they did when we arrived was split us into these little pods. So I was in a group with 4 other people, and this already set off a great tone for the weekend, because in it we talked about what does Tantra mean to us. We shared how are we feeling, what are we nervous about, and by sharing so authentically and so open from the very beginning, and also quite deep, you immediately have these people that you're okay, I feel seen, I feel safe. So that really helped me relax, because when I got there I was a bit nervous, what's it going to be like? I feel very alone. My intention for the weekend was to open myself up and to be open to all the experiences. I'm very happy because I think that's what ended up happening. And that night was probably, for me, it was definitely the most difficult night, because you do in fact, have to make a lot of eye contact, which if anyone is listening who did the retreat with me will laugh, because that's like all I kept talking about, was how intimidated I was by eye contact. So a lot of the exercises you do are to like make connections. So you walk through the space and you kind of make eye contact with different people. Maybe you do a little dance with people. I find that very intimidating, but also something I now really like. So I came out of that experience like really able to make eye contact with people, and I love it. And that's been really cool. Actually, I was at a cafe and made some eye contact with somebody, and at the end of it, they were sitting somewhere else, and then they came up and got my number. So I contact people. I really realized actually how important it is to get comfortable with it. And I think for me, the reason I was so afraid of it is because I wasn't sure what comes with eye contact. I think it was some sort of lack of trust within myself. Like if I make eye contact with a man, because I noticed I was easier making eye contact with women than with men, especially men that maybe I had an attraction for. And I think maybe it's because I was like, is my eye contact giving a wrong signal that I don't intend? Like, is it too intimate to make eye contact with somebody? Is it like inviting them into something more with me? And at the end of this experience, I realized like, no, I actually can trust my own boundaries, and I can make amazing connective eye contact with strangers, and it doesn't mean that I owe them anything from that connection. It can just be like a beautiful moment. My goal for this year has been, that I put in for 2025, is self-trust, and that's really what I feel right now, that regardless of the energy I put out, regardless of the connections that I make, that I can trust myself to take care of myself and to put my own boundaries and to communicate my own desires. So really so much has changed in just a matter of days. One of the exercises I loved was about redirection. And this is so important. It's so important in every aspect of our lives. And basically it's that when somebody says a desire or says something, an idea or suggestion, instead of just shutting them down, it's redirecting them. So if we talk about in the bedroom, if somebody says, I would really love to go down on you right now, instead of just saying no, or instead of just saying, shutting down, you say, oh, like, thank you, that sounds really, really nice, but what if we started with you kissing my neck? And redirecting them to a yes. So you're not shutting down their vulnerability, but you are showing them where your boundary is and where your yes is. And you can bring this into dating too. Like when somebody suggests, shall we go for a coffee, and you would rather do dinner or a meal instead of just being like, no, I don't do coffee dates. You could say, oh, like that sounds really nice, but what if we checked out this new sushi spot instead? You know, if a guy says, can I kiss you right now? You don't have to say yes. You can check in with yourself. You can say, you know, and maybe you like them, right? So you don't want to say no, but maybe it's too soon. So you say, oh, you know, like I do want to get to that at some point, but right now I'd actually much rather we go out dancing, or we hug, whatever it is. But instead of shutting people down, we find ways to like build that connection in a way that feels good to us. And one of the exercises that we did, which was so out of my comfort zone, and but also incredibly enlightening, and it's one of the ones where I'm like, oh, like I find it so cringy too, but I also realized that finding something cringy and judging it is normally a sign that something within you is avoiding something. So I recognize, and I say this with a grain of salt, the cringe part, because it's like showing a blockage in me. So we had to do an exercise where we were in a groups of 4, and you had to express rapidly different emotions. Like the first person really angry, like, and you had to go around being angry, like yelling and throwing things around and screaming, and you went around in a circle, and you all had to embody that emotion. Like think about something that makes you angry and express it. And then we did it with sadness, and then we did it with wild, so like animalistic, and then we did it with sensuality. And what was very interesting for me was I could not access anger. Like I could feel it from other people, and I could like channel that in, but it felt like me performing anger as like I wasn't feeling it. I was just doing what I thought I had to do. I was in my head. And then sadness came really easy to me. I was able to fully be in that space. And then with the wild one, I like couldn't do it at all. I actually asked for assistance, and then this woman came over and helped me get into like my wild, playful side. And then sensuality, I could get into really myself. So there's also just an interesting pointer for me of like, okay, what are areas where you have a blockage? Like anger isn't bad. Why can I not access that? I actually find myself really playful as a partner, or I think I am, but maybe I'm not. Like, what is it that pretending to be an animal like really freaks me out? I think it's showing me where I have areas to like open, which is really, really cool. And the reason why this is so important is because we suppress so many of our emotions. We suppress so much, we hide so much what we're feeling, when it's actually really beautiful to open up and to express that, not at somebody, but to fully be expressive. And the faster you can like cycle through these emotions and like access different emotions, you can bring them out. And the deeper you can go with yourself, the deeper you can go with a partner. And so that was a really, really incredible learning, and still working on accessing those emotions. And it made me think about all the times that I didn't share like true emotions that I felt with somebody. Like if I felt angry at a partner, I would probably like hold it, try and do all this processing by myself. And then once I've like figured out exactly what I want to say and how I want to say it, like then present it to them, instead of like bringing them with me and, you know, saying I'm really fucking angry right now and I don't know what to do with it and I just want you to know, and like but like this is how I'm feeling. And so that's something I really want to bring with me in the future to future relationships, because it's like really showing somebody who you are and how you feel, and there's a way to do it in a non-violent, hurtful way, but where you are just fully expressing yourself. And that's like radical honesty with who you are, and how fucking sexy is that? So then we started to get into more of the kind of sensual, sexual side of this. We used a lot the word expansive, and how, for instance, when we talk about linear sex and how we think of sex now, it's like, okay, first you have kissing, and then you go to foreplay, and then you go to intercourse, and just by the time the woman is like slowly getting excited, their partner has reached the point of no return, and then sex is over. Ooh, there's a crash outside, like the point of no return. And instead of looking at sex as this linear thing, how is it way more expansive? And like tantric sex, the idea, I don't know so much about it, but on the man side, apparently you can, ejaculation and orgasm are not necessarily the same, and you can separate that. So I think that's like what a lot of men are also working on in Tantra. This was a more, our weekend was about so much more, but this was part of it. And how to kind of prolong like really a lot on edging. So it was, how do we get to a 6 and then go back to a 5, and then a 7 and then go back to a 5, and then an 8 and then go back to a 6. And so we're not like going over, but we're just living in this like blissed out pleasure. And there's so many ways you could do this, because you can take a pause during intimacy and you can dance, or you can eye gaze, or you can have a conversation. And it's okay if they get soft. It's okay if you get a little less turned on, because it's not about like racing to get somewhere. It's just about building this intimacy and these like curves and arcs of pleasure, and playing with that and getting really high and then coming back down. So that's also something that I found exciting and interesting and difficult. Like, I'm still a fan of reaching an O, so it's also changed my view on how we look at sex and what is the goal. It's not necessarily an orgasm, it's pleasure, and it's this shared energy exchange. And who are we giving our energy to? How are we making this like flow of energy? Some of the things we did in one exercise that I really liked was, we had a partner and we were blindfolded, and then we had to rub our hands together, to create this energy that you feel. And we held our hands like near each other, and we started to kind of touch fingers and then touch hands, and then like tease, go back to just fingers, and then maybe arms, and like we're rocking around. And there was something incredibly sensual and stimulating about this. So I definitely got turned on. And this is just from like your fingers. So think how fast sometimes we go when we're being intimate, when like just this exercise with fingers and energy is like so sensual and so pleasurable in of itself. And I think we just rush through so many things. So this is really, really cool. And like to see how you can play with energy and how you can move energy within your partner's bodies. Like you don't even need to be touching them to activate them. Okay, another sexy exercise we did was we were dancing, and you had to, this is day 3, so I'm like getting better at eye contact. We were dancing and you made eye contact with one person, and maybe you danced with them, and then they said to grab a third person. So there were these 3 of us dancing, me and 2 men. And then we had an exercise together where we got to express our desires, any desire we want. And they, if they wanted to, they could act on the desire. So this was such a good exercise of like figuring out for yourself, okay, what do I want? And also, where is my boundary? And let me just say, I did express my desires, and it was very, very sexy experience. So it can be very hot to be very articulate in what you want. We talked a lot about polarity between like the masculine and the feminine, and this is something I really struggle in, and I think a lot of probably the women following me probably struggle with too, which is like we're so in our masculine, we're probably very independent, we can do things ourselves, we think there's a specific way, but how that doesn't invite others to rise to their masculinity. And so this was something I'm really thinking about. How can I be more on the receiving side? How can I lean back? How can I just be open and receptive, but not forward, not chasing, not controlling, and being appreciative of like what somebody is bringing, even if it's not like how I would have brought it. Like how can I actually practice real appreciation and show up as like the partner that I actually want to be. And when you're too much in your masculine energy, then you are going to probably attract somebody that is more in their feminine energy, and then you're in this like circle of that you probably don't want to be in. Because I mean, we all want to be, I want to be like safe, and as a woman I want to be taken care of and feel safe so that I can like fully let go and fully open up, and you just feel that in a different dynamics. So we started to talk a lot about that, and one of the exercises we then did was a very sexy one, which was about oh my god, we had to like, I was partnered with somebody, and then I had to like lean back while they kind of went on top of me, like pinned me down. So it was a power play exercise, and yeah, that was also really hot. Honestly, like if you're dating, this is also just so important to go on one of these retreats and experience this, because it just gave me so much feedback. So yeah, I'm so excited. There is so much more I'm going to share with you. And I hope that this inspires you to be curious and to maybe try something new that you haven't done before. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts and to creating an orgasmic life together. Until next week, stay shameless.